The 10 most impressive art masters in the world. Number 10. Titian, Italian, Renaissance. Tiziano Vecellio lived from 1488 to 1576, known as Titian, was one of the greatest exponents of the Venetian Renaissance, a master who mastered color like few others and raised portraiture and mythological and religious painting to sublime levels. His style, rich in chromatic nuances, golden luminosity and dynamic brushstrokes, departed from the severity of Florentine drawing, focusing his attention on the atmosphere, texture and emotional character of the image. Venice, with its changing light and cultural wealth, offered the perfect setting for Titian's genius. His portraits, such as those of Charles V, Philip II, or members of the aristocracy, endow his models with an imposing presence, complex psychology and sumptuous clothing. In mythological paintings, such as the series of poems for Philip II, Titian interpreted classical legends with sensuality, drama and a fascinating color palette. His religious compositions reflect an intense spirituality, with characters immersed in a dense atmosphere of light and color, creating an emotional effect that transcended simple narration. Titian's influence was enormous. His chromatic solutions and his freedom in the use of the brushstroke impacted the following generations, from the Baroque to Romanticism. His conception of color as the soul of painting, capable of shaping the form and meaning of the work, remains an inspiration for those who seek in the canvas something more than the faithful imitation of the visible, the pictorial vibration of life itself. Number 9. Johannes Vermeer. Dutch, Baroque. Johannes Vermeer lived from 1632 to 1675. A master of Dutch Golden Age painting, Vermeer is renowned for the serene atmosphere and exquisite light that characterize his domestic scenes. Although his oeuvre was not very numerous and he spent centuries in relative oblivion, today Vermeer is considered one of the greatest painters of the Baroque, capable of transforming small interiors into scenes of visual poetry. His carefully balanced compositions often present women in everyday tasks, reading letters, serving milk, playing musical instruments, captured in a suspended instant, as if time had stopped its course. Vermeer's extraordinary technical quality stands out for his subtle use of light, which filters through invisible windows to illuminate objects and fabrics with incomparable luminous delicacy. His fine, sometimes imperceptible brushstrokes and his way of fusing soft colors and pearly reflections give the scenes an almost sacred atmosphere. Works such as Girl with a Pearl Earring and The Milkmaid show how the painter ennobled the simplest of actions, suggesting the spiritual and human depth underlying everyday life. Vermeer's influence was rediscovered in the 19th and 20th centuries, inspiring modern artists and critics fascinated by his enigmatic precision. Science and technology have attempted to decipher his methods, while his magnetic aura continues to captivate viewers. Through his painting, Vermeer demonstrated that the most subtle and intense beauty can be found in the silence of a room bathed in daylight. Number 8. Caravaggio. Italian, Baroque. Michelangelo Merisi da Caravaggio lived from 1571 to 1610. Was a pioneer of the Baroque, a painter whose aesthetic and thematic solutions completely transformed the European painting of his time. His style, defined by dramatic chiaroscuro, known as tenebrism, placed the figures in a dim environment, illuminated by intense spotlights that highlighted their faces, gestures, and expressions. Far from Renaissance idealization, Caravaggio did not hesitate to take common people as models, with their simple clothes, rough hands, and real features, humanizing sacred and mythological scenes until they became palpable. In famous paintings such as The Calling of St. Matthew, or The Death of the Virgin, Caravaggio injected an unusual emotional force. His compositions guided the viewer's gaze to the core of the drama, whether a moving gesture, a meaningful glance, or the tension between holiness and earthly misery. This raw sincerity and powerful command of light and shadow earned him admiration and controversy in equal measure. Caravaggio's influence spread throughout Europe, spawning the Caravaggesque school and profoundly impacting later painters from Rembrandt to Velázquez. His legacy lies in having opened painting to emotional realism and the expressive power of illumination, establishing an enduring model for the depiction of human and spiritual drama. Number 7. Raphael Sanzio. Italian, Renaissance. Raffaello Sanzio da Urbino, known as Raphael, lived 1483 to 1520. Was one of the leading figures of the High Renaissance, renowned for his ability to combine harmony, balance, and ideal beauty. Belonging to the golden generation that included Leonardo and Michelangelo, Raphael developed a pictorial language that integrated delicacy of stroke, soft color, and perfect composition, conveying an ideal of classical serenity. His Madonnas, portraits, and frescoes are unsurpassed in purity of form, refinement of drawing, and compositional grace. The frescoes in the Vatican rooms, especially the School of Athens, represent the synthesis of Renaissance humanism: balanced figures, classical architecture, great spatial depth, and exquisite staging that celebrates the wisdom of antiquity. On the other hand, his paintings of the Madonna and Child establish a canon of sweetness and lyricism. Raphael absorbed Leonardo's lessons in sfumato and the use of light, as well as Michelangelo's monumentality, but adapted them to his sensitivity, creating a gentle, serene, and unmistakable style. After his premature death, Raphael left an immense legacy. He was a model for generations of artists, serving as a reference in European academies for centuries. The clarity, softness, and restraint that characterize his work are still admired, reminding us that the perfection of plastic balance is one of the highest goals of art. Number 6. Claude Monet. French, Impressionism. Claude Monet lived from 1840 to 1926. Was a central figure in Impressionism, a movement that transformed the way we understand light, color, and the perception of the world. His painting, developed over a long career, sought to capture the immediate visual impression, the changing atmosphere of fleeting moments, the trembling of light on water, or the chromatic nuance that a garden takes on at different times of the day. Monet was not content with representing reality. He interpreted it through luminous vibration, dissolving the form into juxtaposed patches of color. His famous impression, Sunrise, 1872, gave its name to the movement, and later series, such as those dedicated to Rouen Cathedral, the haystacks, or his water lilies at Gavarnie, demonstrated his obsession with painting the same scene in different atmospheric conditions, exploring the infinite variations of color and light. In this way, Monet transformed the canvas into a stage for sensory experience, promoting a freer, more direct and subjective view of nature. Monet's influence is felt throughout modern art. His way of fragmenting light and form encouraged the path towards neo-impressionism, fauvism, and even abstraction. His legacy lies in having freed the artist from the commitment to precise contour, opening the field to a painting of perceptions, sensations, and ephemeral effects. Number 5. Pablo Picasso. Spanish, 20th century avant-garde. Pablo Picasso lived from 1881 to 1973. Picasso was a prolific and innovative artist who dominated the 20th century art scene, redefining the fundamentals of form, space, and representation. Born in Malaga, Spain, and living in Paris from a young age, Picasso went through countless stylistic stages: Blue Period, Rose Period, African Period, Cubism, Classicism, Surrealism, among others, driving the constant reinvention of pictorial language. With Georges Braque, he co-founded Cubism, a movement that broke down the figure and the object into geometric facets, showing multiple points of view on a single pictorial plane. Beyond Cubism, Picasso ventured into sculpture, ceramics, engraving, and scenography. His portraits, still lifes, and everyday scenes broke with traditional perspective and realism, opening the way to the fragmentation of form. Such emblematic works as Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, 1907, or the monumental Guernica, 1937, reflect his ability to transform painting into an aesthetic and political manifesto, capable of expressing the complexity of the human mind and the tensions of his time. With his creative vigor and his inexhaustible curiosity, Picasso became a symbol of artistic freedom. His influence was decisive for modern and contemporary art, inspiring countless artists to question established canons and to understand painting as a territory of limitless experimentation. Number 4. Vincent van Gogh. Dutch, Post-Impressionism. Vincent van Gogh lived from 1853 to 1890. Personifies the myth of the tormented artist whose work, misunderstood during his lifetime, achieved colossal influence after his death. In just over a decade of intense production, Van Gogh explored color and stroke with a spiritual and emotional fervor, reflecting his conflicted inner world on his canvases. His material-laden brushstrokes, swirling or delineating vibrant contours, give his landscapes, portraits, and still lifes a pulsating energy, an almost physical presence. Van Gogh's palette, initially more muted, became progressively brighter during his stay in Arles, in the south of France. Works such as The Starry Night, his wheat fields, his sunflowers, his self-portraits marked by an intense and melancholic gaze, show his conviction that color could express deep emotions and transcend mere description. His painting was a sincere cry, an attempt to communicate with the world through art, beyond words. Despite the lack of recognition and the economic hardships he suffered, Van Gogh left a formidable pictorial testimony. His influence was central to Fauvism, Expressionism, and other 20th century movements. By choosing subjectivity, passion, and anguish as his creative fuel, Van Gogh bequeathed us the notion of a fully human art, capable of moving and shaking the viewer with its vital intensity. Number 3. Rembrandt van Rijn. Dutch, Baroque. Rembrandt van Rijn lived from 1606 to 1669. Was a genius of Dutch Baroque painting, a master of chiaroscuro whose talent for portraying the human condition raised him to the top of art history. His work included biblical and mythological scenes, portraits of bourgeois and nobles, self-portraits at different stages of his life, and engravings of unsurpassed technical mastery. Rembrandt managed to capture not only the physiognomy of his characters, but also their psychology, their inner dignity, and the emotional tensions that run through their existence. In paintings such as The Night Watch or The Anatomy Lesson of Dr. Tulp, Rembrandt played with light and shadow to direct the gaze, highlight gestures, and confer a dramatic and intimate atmosphere. His self-portraits, which record his life from youth to old age, show an inner dialogue in which the artist questions his identity and the passage of time. With loose, pasty brushstrokes, he achieved a pictorial texture that gave the figures an almost tangible presence. Rembrandt's influence was immense. In his ability to recreate human nature with total honesty and empathy, as well as in his mastery of light contrast, he anticipated many aspects of pictorial modernity. His legacy teaches us that the greatness of art lies not only in technical perfection, but in the ability to convey the deep essence of human experience. Number 2. Michelangelo Buonarroti. Italian, Renaissance. Michelangelo Buonarroti lived during the years 1475 to 1564. Was one of the giants of the Renaissance, a total artist who stood out as a sculptor, painter, architect, and poet. His work is characterized by a titanic energy and a desire for formal perfection that led him to explore the limits of the human body as an instrument for expressing the highest spiritual emotions. Masterpieces such as the sculpture of David, the Pietà, or the frescoes of the Sistine Chapel, such as The Creation of Adam, show his masterful control of anatomy, movement, expression, and composition, translating into marble and color the most sublime visions of human experience and Christian faith. Michelangelo had a prodigious ability to endow inert matter with inner life, generating an overwhelming experience in the viewer. His muscular bodies, full of contained tension, seem to struggle between earthly matter and the aspiration to the divine ideal. As an architect, he designed the Dome of St. Peter's in Rome, creating one of the most emblematic spaces of Christianity, a testimony to his multidisciplinary genius. Michelangelo's influence extends throughout the history of art. His heroic conception of the human figure, the emotional power of his work, and his desire for artistic greatness influenced generations of artists. Through his legacy, we understand the Renaissance as an era in which man aspired to reflect divine perfection through the sublime beauty of art. Number 1. Leonardo da Vinci. Italian, Renaissance. Leonardo da Vinci lived from 1452 to 1519. Is the archetype of the Renaissance genius, a man who embodied infinite curiosity, encyclopedic talent, and the ability to fuse art and science in a single vision of the world. Painter, sculptor, architect, engineer, anatomist, musician, inventor, and philosopher, Leonardo left a universal imprint. His painting is characterized by sfumato, a delicate blurring of contours that gave his characters an unmatched subtlety, and by the search for harmonious perfection between form, light, and composition. Works such as La Gioconda, Mona Lisa, or The Last Supper transcended the history of art to become icons of universal culture. In them, Leonardo synthesizes the psychological complexity of his characters, spatial depth, the interaction between light and shadow, and the interest in revealing the inner workings of nature. His notebooks, filled with anatomical drawings, studies on the flight of birds, war machines, hydraulic dams, and flying mechanisms, reflect his desire to understand and dominate the entire universe. Leonardo's influence is immeasurable. He inspired generations of artists and scientists, showing them that knowledge and beauty can go hand in hand, that rigorous observation of reality is the first step to transform it through art. His figure embodies the ideal of the Renaissance, a time when intelligence, creativity, and the passion to explore unknown frontiers merged in the search for excellence and truth. Thank you for watching our video. Subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Give it a like, comment your thoughts, and share this video with your friends and family.